I know that a lot of you don't appreciate having to see this, especially if you've just eaten dinner or breakfast for those of you who view these Sunday addresses in the morning. But I'm afraid I gotta make your stomachs a little bit queasy.
And so we can go on and on and on. And so for the people sitting at home who are saying, yeah, man, I'm gonna sit this one out. Okay, but let me tell you right now, go ahead and write it down. Roland Martin said at 7-Eleven on October 13th, 2022, you ain't getting shit. If the Republicans take control of the House and the Senate.
All right, let's address first things first. As with every other instance like this, Roly-Poly doesn't get profane or start cursing at people, except for black people, specifically the black grassroots. Why, that seems to be the main thing that makes him get all profane and all vulgar. When he was buck dancing with Hillary Clinton, he didn't get profane with her. He didn't make any demands of her either, except for maybe a job in her administration. When he talked to, or rather got checked by, Richard Spencer, he didn't get profane with the preeminent white supremacist of our time either. No cursing at Richard Spencer, no foul language. He only gets like this with black people. Especially when it's black people who are not going to vote for the Democrats. Then all of a sudden, Roly-Poly loses the one or two marbles that he pretends to have, and he starts cursing and ranting. That's because he has no respect for black people. As Roland Martin sees it, he's smarter than black folks. His job is to be the Negro Wrangler. He's going to corral all these little Negroes for massa. So as he sees it, he can talk to us any way he wants. Who does he think is going to hear him cursing and condescending to them and then think, I needs to listen to this guy? So that's the first thing. Never listen to anyone who doesn't respect you. And Roly wears his disrespect for the black community like a badge of dishonor. But of course, as we all know, Roly's real audience isn't black people at all. His real audience are the white Democrat Party leaders who he's hoping will throw him a few advertising dollars and consulting fees.
But let me tell you right now, go ahead and write it down. Roland Martin said at 7-Eleven on October 13th, 2022, you ain't getting shit. If the Republicans take control of the House and the Senate.
He's auditioning for a job with them. He wants to show that he has as much contempt for the black grassroots as his white Democrat masters do. When Roly says that the Dems need to do effective communication with the black community, this is what he's talking about. And when he says they need to go to black-owned media, I don't know if he's talking about himself. What he's really saying is, I'll get out there and I'll tell them they're a bunch of damn fools for not doing what you say, Master. See, I'll be the black face that you can go ahead and have your little white supremacist talking point spouted by. I'll talk to him because I know you can't talk to him like that, but I'll do it for you. See, give me some dollars and I'll talk to him. They need to curse at us, talk to us like dogs, and then say, now go and vote for us? Is that their voter outreach? If you wonder where crap like get your booty to the polls or no voting, no vucking come from, they get encouraged by bottom feeders like this. This is how the Democrats see black people, as if we're nothing more than animals who only follow our lowest instincts. So when you come to black folks, you don't talk about what we're going to get. All you have to do is put some strippers on a pole, and that's how you communicate with black people. The mentality of the white Democratic leadership is no different than the white right. As they see it, black men can't keep their pants on and black women can't keep their legs closed, so you don't have to come to black people and talk about policy. When talking to the black community, you can just go ahead and be foul and vulgar about it. Just say no voting, no vucking, because black people don't actually deserve to get anything for their vote. And if all else fails, send in the clowns, the discredited and illegitimate bootlicks like Roly, who will cuss and rant and talk to us like dogs because black people are not to be respected.
Roland Martin said at 7-Eleven on October 13th, 2022, you ain't getting if the Republicans take control of the House and the Senate.
Can you see Roly-Poly talking to the LGBT community like this? Ever seen him talk to the Jewish community like that, or Hispanics, or these women's groups who are white-led, by the way? Of course not. Do you see any of the Democratic operatives talking to these other groups like this? Of course not. Roly would never do that. Forget about cursing, he wouldn't even be disrespectful to these other groups. So why does this punk think that he can talk to us like this? Remember, when Roly says Democrats need to come to fools like him to talk to the black community, this is what he means. Democrats need to come to him so he can talk to us like this. Because it would sound a little bit different if Joe Biden and the other white Democratic leaders said what they thought about us. You know, like, if you can't decide whether or not to vote for me, you ain't black. I bet you Roly was like, Master, you need to let me live in lines like that. They feel some kind of way when you do it. They'll accept it from me. See, I'll be the black face. You can hide behind the spout. Your talking points. This is Roly's idea of black voter outreach. Yeah, he's reaching out all right so he can slap black people in the face. Now, putting Roly-Poly's potty mouth aside, he says Republicans aren't going to do anything for black people. But you notice that he never names even one thing that Democrats have done or are going to do for black people. It's a given that black folks aren't going to vote for the Republicans, but Roly and his white Democratic master's problem is that it's no longer a given that black people will vote for the Democrats. And Roly's not telling us what we're going to get if we do. It's just a bunch of Republicans ain't gonna do nothing. They ain't gonna do nothing. Ain't gonna do nothing. Okay, and what are Democrats gonna do? Republicans ain't gonna do nothing. I asked about the Democrats. See them GOP folks and white right folks, they go into the polls and they ain't gonna give you nothing. You ain't gonna get nothing. What about the Democrats? See, the Republicans ain't gonna do nothing. He already knows the Democrats aren't promising anything, so he's trying to talk around that. And as for reparations,
I get folks out there saying, well, we haven't gotten this and gotten that. Let me be real clear. There's not a damn thing you want that the right is going to give you. Not one of them. Not one of them.
That's right.
Not one. All y'all folk who yell reparations, there is not a single Republican who supports reparations. Not one. So I can guarantee you they're going to make sure that never happens. Okay, let's just be real clear. You ain't even gonna get a study. They have 217 co-sponsors for H.R. 40. Not one of them a Republican. Hello, they win the House, you can hang that up.
Every Democrat from Kamala Harris to Elizabeth Warren to Bernie Sanders to nigga Jim Clyburn have all said they don't support reparations. But of course, Roly-Poly doesn't actually talk about that. He just says Republicans aren't in favor of it. And I'm supposed to believe that Democrats are? He didn't say that they are. See, this is weasel words. This is lying by omission. Where's this support in Congress at for reparations among the Democrats? Congressional Republicans say they won't support reparations, and congressional Democrats say that they don't support it either. What have the Democrats in the House or the Senate done in the last 2 years to do anything on reparations? What the heck have they done? Where's all these moves they've made? I've seen an anti-Asian hate crime bill. I've seen Democrats proposing that there be a federal law legalizing abortion in all 50 states. So what have they said about reparations? Not a doggone thing. So if Republicans do get back control of the House and the Senate, nothing's going to change when it comes to reparations. Democrats aren't saying anything on it. Republicans aren't saying anything on it either. Why is Roly acting as if Democrats want to give us what we're owed, even when they have said they don't want to? But that's why Roly didn't present you with the receipts of congressional Democrats saying, here's the check we're going to cut for black folks. He ain't talking like that. This is weasel words coming from a snake in the grass. Besides, in the black media, we've reminded you repeatedly that Biden made 2 major promises to black people during the 2020 presidential campaign. A so-called police accountability commission at the presidential level, and Biden and Kamala's much ballyhooed lift every voice plan. Their supposed economic plan. Whatever became of those promises, Roly? It's been 2 years now. So where are they? Where are these promises at? Well, we already know. Biden dropped that police accountability commission idea almost before he took the oath of office. He said, well, Congress should do that because he doesn't have enough time or whatever. So that promise was utterly broken. He gave that one statement saying, police accountability commission, I ain't got time for it. Let Congress handle it. And that's the last anyone has heard of it. So what have those congressional Democrats done in regards to a police accountability commission? While we're talking about control of the House and the Senate, what have congressional Democrats done? Nothing. And as for Biden's lift every voice plan, he hasn't even said one word about it. Forget about saying that he's not going to do it. He hasn't even talked about it since the election. He's just pretended like he never promised it, and the white media, including its bootlick suck-ups like Roly, don't mention it. So where is this big difference with the GOP, Roly? Where's this track record of Democrats doing great things for black people for the last few years? It makes you look like an even bigger fool than the one we knew you were when you say that Republicans won't give black people anything and then you can't point to what Democrats are going to do. But this is what happens when your core audience are old Negroes, HBCU clowns, and fellow bootlicks. Roly figures because none of them have critical thinking skills or even common sense, then the rest of us don't either. And he's wrong.
Okay, let's just be real clear. You ain't even gonna get a study. They have 217 co-sponsors for HR 40. Not one of them a Republican. Hello, they win the House, you can hang that up.
HR 40 was the daydream delusion of those two clowns, Squarejaw and Mushmouth. TBA personally eviscerated that one years ago, and it's been dead ever since. At this point, even the A-Dunce crowd doesn't mention it. They haven't talked about it since forever, so why is Roly Poly bringing that one up? Something that nobody's been talking about in the longest time. It's because when you're a wannabe member of the white media, you're always the last to know. Roly Poly doesn't have the ear to the black street, so he doesn't know or care what's going on with us. He's so busy sending out his resume to CNN and MSNBC and the White House, desperately hoping to get a weekend show on MSNBC or CNN, or hopefully they'll make him a permanent panelist on someone's show, or maybe the White House will finally return one of his phone calls or emails and make him a deputy assistant communications something or other. He doesn't actually know what's going on with the grassroots, and he doesn't care. He's too busy auditioning to be the head Negro in charge, or in his case, head bootlick in charge. He's out to prove that he can corral all the little Negroes out there, and that's why the DNC needs to spend their advertising budgets with him.
And I'm telling you right now, Pennsylvania, y'all better make sure Fetterman wins. North Carolina, black folks, y'all should be lining up for Sherry Beasley.
Now you notice he isn't asking black people to vote. He's not giving black people a reason to vote. He's demanding, he's ordering us to the polls. Pennsylvania, y'all better vote for Fetterman. What's Fetterman offering? Don't matter, vote for him. Cheryl Beasley, y'all, the black folks, y'all better turn out for Cheryl Beasley. They're not asking for our vote, they're telling us to. Like slaves on a plantation. Again, do you see them ever talk to any other constituency like that? Do they tell the Jewish vote, y'all, in Florida and New York, y'all better get y'all bus to the polls, y'all better vote for so-and-so. Y'all better vote for Val Demings in Florida, y'all better vote. They don't talk like that to Hispanics. They don't order everybody else around. They come to us and they're wagging their finger at us and barking out orders at us. I mean, the sheer gall of this fool. Every time he takes those hot wings out of his mouth long enough to spew some gibberish, he's always talking about how the DNC needs to spend money with him. Well, black-owned media means absolutely nothing if it serves a white master, which is what Roly does. He wants to make himself of maximum benefit to the white power structure that he wants money from. He's gotten money from the government before, and here he is, still got his hand out. Does anyone seriously believe that a chump like this, who literally buck-danced with Hillary Clinton, would ever challenge her on her super predators remarks? Or her hard-working white family's remarks? Or her husband's policies, which she did nothing to reverse or even denounce when she was in the Senate? Of course not. Roly's auditioning for a job, auditioning for some money, and he knows that he better not talk sideways to Massa if he wants even a snowball's chance in hell of getting something. And his begging is so pitiful.
And y'all can holler, oh, you've been the Democratic shield.
He can't call that Vanity Project podcast of his independent journalism. It's not independent anything. Independence means you can speak your mind no matter who doesn't like it. And when you're hoping that the Democrats are going to give you some money, there's no way in hell that you're going to call them out on their refusal to do anything for black people. You're going to always be deciding, well, I'll say a couple of small, minor critiques, but nothing too hard-hitting. And I'm definitely not going to be going straight at the jugular on this one because I don't want black folks thinking that they're supposed to be actually pushing back. I'm going to go ahead and protect them. I know which side my bread's buttered on. What kind of independence is that? Who does this chump think he's fooling? HR 40 indeed. It's so pathetic. You know, Roly, if you're going to attack the grassroots, at the very least, keep up with the conversation, but of course he can't, because the discourse of the new black media flies right over his empty little head. Roly Poly is literally years behind the times. All these bootlicks know how to do is to attend the next NAACP spring breakfast, the National Action Network summer luncheon, or the Urban League fall fish fry, where they sit around with the rest of the irrelevant do-nothings and talk about who was a guest on this or that white cable station, who had an interview with this or that Democrat on their podcast. These chumps are a wannabe social club, and they failed to even become a prestigious one. When we say black media, this is why we make sure to tell you. We ain't talking about chumps like him, and this is why we keep on his case. We're not talking about Roly or any of these other safe, unthreatening Negroes who you see on white cable networks. The entire point of having a media is to advance a value system, to promote a particular worldview. Nobody's promoting the black grassroots values or worldview except for the new voices of black media. You need people speaking in your interest, not some half-brained get-out-the-vote effort for the Democrats. You're wasting your time if you think all you have to say is Republicans are bad and that's it. You have to give us a viable alternative. And it's not as if Democrats are new. They're quite old. They are a known quantity to us. They've had generations now to prove that they'll do what we need, and they haven't done it. When we make demands, they use trick language and weasel words to talk around us, and then pretend that they addressed our concerns when in reality, they address nothing. And when we corner them on reparations, they flat out say no. So Roly's not fooling anyone by pretending that Democrats are going to do anything for us. Black people are getting killed with impunity. Nobody's talking about a black hate crimes bill. Meanwhile, all it took was COVID-19 and the government passed an Asian hate crimes law. That LGBT nightclub in Orlando was shot up and Democrats decided to do a sit-in on the floor of the House of Representatives. Meanwhile, a white supremacist commits a massacre inside a black church, killing 9 people, including the pastor. And Democrats didn't do a sit-in, they didn't even stand up. Instead, they sent their bootlick buffoon Obama to sing a few bars of Al Green. You better learn to recognize when people don't respect you.
Let me be real clear. These white folks are holding on to this thing as long as they can. You are seeing the enthusiasm on their side. I keep warning folks, so y'all sit here and play around with this election and don't show up. I'm telling you, white, maggot Republicans, I said that for a reason. Those MAGA folks, they will be voting, early voting on election day.
Roly, your whining about how the MAGA crowd is lining up to support their candidates only makes you sound more stupid. Of course, the white right are lining up to support the racists in the GOP, because those guys have already done things for their constituents, and they've promised to do even more for them, and to make sure that their position is not threatened. Democrats have refused to make us any promises, other than what they're not going to do. They put out memos saying that if black people come asking for something, you make sure to sympathize, but you don't dare make any promises. That was written down. We got that in black and white. When Democrats are forced to make promises like what happened in 2020, they then turn right around and break those promises. And then Roly-Poly has the nerve to act like he can't understand why the white right is motivated to go to the polls, while black voters are saying there's no point. And no, Roly, that's not Republican propaganda, and it's not voter apathy either. That's pattern recognition. So nobody cares when you sit here blustering and blubbering and yeah, y'all ain't gonna y'all crazy as hell. No, stupid crazy is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. You know, like voting for a particular party come hell or high water over and over again, no matter how many times they lie to you, no matter how many times they make promises and then turn right around and break them, or don't make any promises at all. That's crazy to vote for them time and time again. That's insanity. That's crazy as hell.
Y'all, it's 2 damn choices.
I'm telling y'all there's 2 damn choices. No, Roly, there's not. You cannot call it a choice if your only option is candidate A who says they're not going to do anything for you, or candidate B who says, hell no, I won't do anything for you. Roly wants us to think that the Democrats are different or better because the Republicans are more rude when they tell us what they're not going to do. That's a distinction without a difference, but the one thing it is not is a choice. How is Tommy Tuberville saying they want to give reparations to the criminals more disrespectful than Kamala Harris saying, I'm not going to do something that's only going to benefit black people? No! Elections are transactional. When it comes to my vote, it's a yes or no proposition. I tell you what I require, and I'm looking for a straight up yes. Anything other than a yes is a no. And all we've gotten for the Democrats are no's. Some bootlicks, however, think they're slick. They're really not. They think if they lay low, then they'll never be found out. They can hide amongst us forever, undermining us from within, and they'll be able to get away with being quiet or with pretending to give lip service to black empowerment. That's why reparations is such an awesome issue to rally around. It genuinely threatens the status quo. Bootlicks can't afford to just sit back or be quiet on that one. Reparations threatens the stability of their white benefactors, so the bootlicks are forced to have to stand up and say something to protect their would-be white paymasters. They'll cuss and holler like Roly. They will sit there and use shaming language and be condescending, and they'll show you exactly what they really think of you. But that's what the bootlicks do. When they see us aiming the big guns at white power, they have no choice but to say something or try to do something, as we saw in the case of Reggie Jones Sawyer out in California. We have to stop being timid about forcing people to declare where they stand. That's how you get things done. And it has to be something that requires white power to give up its power. It has to bring about a change in the status quo. And any hesitation, any reticence, any pushback counts as opposition. So don't come to me talking about vote Democrat. Joe Biden was the author of the '94 crime bill, and to this day, he refuses to admit to the damage that he did. See, that's the dirty little secret that Roly-Poly's not going to mention when he goes on these BS-laden rants. Democrats have been just as instrumental in passing laws to harm black people as Republicans. Both political parties are proud of the harm that they've done to the black community. The only difference is the Republicans brag about it. With the Democrats, black people are out of sight, out of mind. I know you've seen the political flyers and cards in your mail just like I have, and what I've seen in the Democratic strategy is clearly to appeal to black women. That's what they're hoping that they're appealing to, because that's what all their literature is about. I get flyer after flyer, just like you do, talking about how important they say the votes of black women are, and then when they list what they think is important to black women, all I see is abortion. That's it. Abortion, something that matters primarily to white women. Black women are the largest group of women who die during childbirth. This in the United States. The maternal mortality rate for black women in the U.S. surpasses all other groups, but you wouldn't know it by what these Democratic politicians say. Apparently, it's not a problem at all for them, and you wouldn't know it by what Roly-Poly says either. When's the last time you've heard him mention the maternal mortality rate for black women or say that's a prominent issue? When has he questioned Democrats on it? When has he brought it up during one of these talk shows that he occasionally, once every blue moon, manages to squeeze into? Have you heard him make a big deal of the infant mortality rate among black babies? Of course not. Black mothers' greatest reproductive threat comes from racist doctors and nurses in these hospitals. A black woman's life is at risk merely because she became pregnant in a society that wants her and her baby dead. And what are Democrats doing to punish hospitals who are carrying out this medical apartheid? Roly-Poly's a sock puppet, mindlessly parroting what his white Democratic masters tell him to say. That's why he didn't seem interested or even attempt to say what Democrats had done for black people or what they're promising to do in the future. So, Roly, when you get through stuffing your face to the Western sizzling, do yourself a solid one. Go beg your buddy Biden to explain what happened to all those fake promises he made to black people in 2020. Ask your Democratic buddies to tell you what laws they passed on the behalf of black people. Hell, even to list what bills they brought to the floor of the House for a vote or even a debate that would help protect the lives of black mothers and their unborn babies in these hospitals, to say nothing of reparations or punishing the thugs in blue. What have they done? Why don't you ask them, Roly? And after you finally get around to asking your would-be Democratic paymasters about all the things they haven't done, you can then look in the mirror and ask yourself what black person would listen to an obvious shill like you. Good evening, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Montrez Braxton, Eve, Samora Morris, Rebellious Zoe, and Kevin Bryant. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.